likes our popcorn. I think he goes between our
He loves, this morning they were inside the theater, so he's very well. Why is this not working?
I want to get down and see.
Jesse does the fourth. Josh will play.
He's getting his test number, right?
guys waving to us.
How are we doing? Are you live streaming or not?
No, it won't.
I don't know what's wrong. It was working. I left. Everything was working. Everything looked good. I can hear it.
I thought the TV, that radio guy was waving to us.
I've got another hotspot. Josh is wandering around here somewhere.
My mom
I still
really
don't have a
wanted to
thing.
come,
All
but
right.
I
Let me find out what's going
taking a
on.
chance with it.
No.
She's 90.
They haven't gone live.
There's been an uptick in cases again, so.
Yeah.
I think we are supposed to go live. It's not going live.
Oh, okay.
Are you ladies okay? Do you need anything?
No.
I'm hungry. Hungry? Do you need some snacks?
I guess.
Do you need a green room for you?
Yeah, here's a pizza.
I'll get you a delivery.
I should have brought the M&Ms. We can DoorDash this.
Oh, there you go.
Gina, don't run out after because I have a question for you.
I'm going to stay for the duration.
Okay.
Everybody's trying to get sick.
So you didn't get pulled into the replay. This was my other duty as a son. You're like, I'll do that one.
I got that one.
Gina, isn't that every day for you? Isn't that every day for you?
Yes. Today was a good one though.
See, nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed. I don't know who's going to give us the green light.
Actually, when Tammy comes back and Josh.
Great point. Josh.
Oh, right.
I still don't have a check. I think he's trying to get it. Everybody's trying to. Is Wi-Fi an issue up here?
No, just in the back. They do some boosters for events like this.
Because Tammy's trying to live stream and she's not able to live stream.
Oh, is she trying to live stream? Oh, goodness, she doesn't have a Wi-Fi.
Well, I think it's. Tammy, do you have a Wi-Fi number on CLI?
Linda.
What? Do you have a Wi-Fi number on CLI? No.
That might be it. Let me,
Everybody, it's coming up. Everybody else is getting it.
okay.
It's so it's on.
Record
Everybody,
on
yeah.
your
So
phone.
I think it's. Oh, there it goes. Got it. Okay. There was something funky, and I don't know what it is, but I fixed it. Don't ask me what it is. All right.
Can you record it on your phone?
Live streaming. Yes, we are live streaming. Yes. We are recording
Thank you.
Yeah. Ladies, we are live streaming at Berkshire and recording for Northern Berkshire Community Television. I'm sorry, did you hear me?
No.
We are live streaming at Berkshire tonight and recording for Northern Berkshire.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I did hear that. Sorry, Myra.
Yeah, we're ready.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. Hello. Hi, thank you for joining us. All right, I think we are all set. Good evening again. I'm Gina Puck, Vice President for Strategic Initiatives here at MCLA. On behalf of President Burge and the Massachusetts College of Liberal Arts trustees, faculty, staff, and students, it's my distinct pleasure to welcome you to tonight's historic mayoral debate. I offer my most cordial welcome to our candidates, Lynette Bond and Jennifer Maxey. Thank you for being here this evening. Debates on a college campus are familiar and echo the rich history and public purpose of American higher education. Our mission as an academic institution, and one that is ranked nationally as a top 10 public liberal arts college, is to promote active and responsible citizenship. Although MCLA does not endorse any party or any candidate, we're pleased to provide a venue where our community can exercise that most noble civic duty, to choose wisely those who will represent our voices. Tonight would not be possible without the time and efforts of many. Thank you to iBerkshires, the MCLA Political Science Club, and Dr. Samantha Petty, and our panel of journalists you'll meet later, Miranda Majowski from the MCLA Beacon, Greta Yoakum from the Berkshire Eagle, Josh Landis from WAMC, Tammy Daniels from iBerkshires, And a thank you to Jackie Kelly for your organizational prowess getting tonight off the ground. I look forward tonight to hearing a robust and civil debate of ideas and platforms. Thank you for joining us this evening, and if you're a Parks and Rec fan, you know it's a night that would make Leslie Knope very proud. Enjoy the debate and be sure to vote on November 2nd. Please welcome and thank our debate moderator to the podium, Myra Wilk, Adamstown moderator.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's debate for mayor in the city of North Adams. Our candidates on my left, Lynette Bond and Jennifer Maxey. And the questions will be posed by our members of the press on my right, Miranda Majowski from MCLA, Josh Landis, the Berkshire Bureau Chief from WAMC, Jennifer Yoakum, a reporter from the Berkshire Eagle, and Tammy Daniels, editor from iBerkshires. The candidates have agreed to the following procedures for tonight's debate. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening and closing statement. The order for the opening statements was decided by a coin toss, and the candidate who lost the coin toss will go first in closing statements. The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer a question posed by a member of the panel or myself. The order of the election ballot determined which candidate would answer question 1 first. Questions will then rotate between the 2 candidates, giving each an opportunity to answer first. When both candidates have had an opportunity to answer the question, and if she would like to respond to the other candidate, she will raise her hand, be recognized, and be given 1 minute to respond. Members of the panel can also ask the candidates for a further response, and the candidates will have 1 minute to respond to those questions. There were questions submitted by the public, and I will ask those questions throughout the debate. Brittany Polito from iBerkshires will be our timekeeper this evening, and when there is a half a minute remaining in your time, she will hold up a sign that says 30 seconds, and then when there is 10 seconds remaining, she will again hold up a sign, and when it's time to wrap up, she'll let you know that too. She'll hold up that sign. And when you've finished your allotted time of 2 minutes, if you continue to talk, I will say thank you, and we will move on. I asked the candidates, and I'm sure we won't have this issue, but that personal comments about one another will not be tolerated, and you will be ruled out of order. So to the audience, and how exciting it is for these women to have an audience to share their ideas and plans for the city of North Adams. Thank you for being here and encouraging these candidates. I do ask at this time that you turn off your cell phones. I request that you treat each candidate fairly and with respect. I ask that you remain quiet throughout the debate with no clapping, cheering, or calling out, except when we get to the closing statements, and each candidate has had their opportunity to provide that statement. I encourage you to applaud, cheer, shout for both of these candidates. Ladies, are we ready to begin? Okay. Opening statement. Ms. Bond won the coin toss, and she will go first with her opening statement.
All right, good evening. Hear me okay?
We are okay.
All right. Good evening. Thank you to our sponsors, iBerkshires. Thank you to the MCLA Political Science Club. Thank you to our host, MCLA. Thank you to Ms. Maxey. Thank you to our moderator and our media panel. And thanks to those watching at home and our audience here. My name is Lynette Bond, and I believe my work and life experiences have uniquely prepared me for the role of Mayor of North Adams. I currently work as the Director of Development for Grants and Research at MCLA, and prior to this worked for the Town of Adams in the Community Development Office. I was raised in Iowa by a single mother who instilled in me the value of education and the importance of dedication to one's work. She worked in administration for nearly 40 years before retiring and moving out here to North Adams. I was close also with my father, who's a Vietnam veteran, a Purple Heart recipient, and a proud member of the American Legion. My grandfather, too, was influential. He was a police officer, often working nights, and somehow managed to drive a bus school bus in the mornings and afternoons. It's because of them that I am the first in my family to go to college. I'm quite proud of my service in Honduras as a Peace Corps volunteer. I am married with 2 children. My husband works at BMC, and my 2 children proudly attend North Adams Public Schools. Through my civic engagement, I voluntarily led the campaign for the Coal Grove Park Elementary School project. I'm a planning board member. I have been a board member and treasurer of Child Care of the Berkshires. I've been a foster parent for the Department of Children and Families. Our family has been a host family for the North Adams Steeple Cats. Go Cats! And I've been a coach for the North Adams Youth Basketball League. Working and volunteering in this community has taught me the joys and struggles in others' lives, and I think it's this dedication to the community. This experience is fundamental to understanding our community. So I am committed to this community, I am prepared, and I have the experience to put my experience and my working experience to work for the city of North Adams.
Thank you, Ms. Bond. Ms. Maxey?
Great. Can everybody hear me? Great. It's so great to be on the MCLA campus again. I'd like to thank our panelist, moderator Myra Wilk, and MCLA for hosting this debate. When I first announced my candidacy in July, I did so because of my deep love and concern for this great city, a place that I've called home my entire life. My parents always stressed to me that I should give back to this community, and I feel now is the right time to give back to North Adams, a community that has been good to me and my family. My extensive municipal and educational experience has prepared me well to move this city forward. I will be the mayor who represents all people of North Adams, and I will always put the best interest of this city first. I will bring back professional leadership, accountability, and financial oversight to local government. There hasn't been a lot of debate about the issues that face us. There are many uncertain times ahead in North Adams, and the next mayor will be facing many difficult decisions. The voters of North Adams should know how each of us, our candidates, will respond to these challenges ahead. Throughout my campaign, I've touched on many issues which are important to all of us. I've avoided making personal attacks on my opponent and her supporters, as it serves no purpose other than to upset our family members and divide the community. I hope tonight we can talk about quality of life, our neighborhoods, our aging infrastructure, economic development, and most important to me, the education of this community. But most importantly, I want to make this an affordable community for our hardworking men and women. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to the panel, I'd like to let the audience know and the candidates know that we are recording this evening on Northern Berkshire Community Television Corporation to be replayed at a later date, and we are live streaming on iBerkshires this evening. The first question will go to our host, MCLA, Miranda Majowski. Go ahead, Miranda.
Well, first off, on behalf of MCLA's Political Science Club, I would like to welcome both candidates, my fellow panelists, and all of the residents of North Adams. Thank you all for participating in the political process. So to start off, I would just like to ask, many community members, including MCLA students, have expressed concerns about social and racial inequalities in the city. As mayor, how do you plan to address these issues to ensure that these populations are getting their voices heard?
Ms. Bond?
Thank you. As a family, we are a mixed race family, and these issues of diversity and inclusion are very important not only to my family, but it's important to the city. We need to bring diverse voices to our city. We need to be a welcoming community. We know that we have struggled with population for many, many years, many decades. So it is this inclusivity, it is bringing in newcomers who will be welcomed into our community that is quite important. We can do that through diverse hiring, using those best practices. We know we need to bring in more people. North Adams was built by immigrants. Immigrants who built the city, who worked in our mills, and we know that they wanted the best for their families, just like we all want the best for our families. So we want everyone to be invested, to come and work for the city, to open businesses, to enroll in our schools, to invest in our community, and to share in the tax burden. So we need to be welcoming and inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Maxey?
Sure. As part of my administration, everyone will be welcome. Everyone will have a seat at the table. I will be a mayor that represents all voices. I want to ensure there is equity in our community. You know, I spent a lot of time on this very campus working with students who weren't sure that they fit in here in North Adams. I worked hard to make them feel comfortable. I embraced them. I invited them to be part of the community, to even sit and have breakfast with my mother and I. I know how to make people feel welcomed, and I will continue that through my administration and lead with kindness and compassion and inclusion. And I think it's important as a community we all do that as well.
Thank you. Ms. Bond, 1 minute.
Just want to ask Ms. Maxey, I know in that fundraising letter that did go out, I just wanted to address that, that you didn't want to support or didn't want to welcome those who were supportive of past administrations. And I know that's been a question I've received from people here and throughout the community. So I just wanted to give you a chance to address that. And because we want to know that you would represent, just as I plan to do, to represent all of our constituents, regardless of who you've supported in the past. It's important that we represent our entire city.
Thank you,
So-
Ms. Maxey.
What do I have, 30 seconds or a minute?
You have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. So Lynette, along that line, I want to work with all people, even some of your supporters who've taken pot shots at me. We're going to live and we're going to learn. But what I meant by that statement was there's been a lot of good work done in North Adams, but there's also been things that have left out there, things that haven't been accomplished. And we can do better for our downtown. We can do better for our neighborhoods. My priorities look different than the past administrations, and I hope your administration would look different too if you were successful. I agree, I want to be welcoming and I want to work with people. I just have different priorities and different philosophies than some of your supporters. You and I sometimes are on the same page. But we need to, you know, do things a little differently. We can't operate in a vacuum. And I haven't been happy with some of the things that have happened. And I want to see more progress. I want to see more action and less talk. So that's what I meant about that statement.
Thank you. And Miranda, would you like to follow up?
Yeah, so before that conversation rolled into a little bit about the past administration, you both discussed wanting to amplify voices of minority populations within the community and within the MCLA community specifically. I've talked to several students on campus who haven't felt particularly welcomed in North Adams. So I guess to further my first question, I would just say, how specifically would you look into hearing these voices and amplifying these voices? Would it be in the form of forums, open dialogues, or is there another solution?
Ms. Maxey, I'm going to allow you to go first for
Sure.
1 minute.
Yeah, so my door will always be open. If we feel that, or you feel that there's a need for me to come to campus, I love this campus and I will be happy to come and meet with groups and talk to people. But I also will be creating an atmosphere in the community where everyone's welcome. I know many of the students that I worked with here on the MCLA campus felt uncomfortable going into coffee shops when they first arrived. I know that students felt uncomfortable going into the supermarket. So I stepped out of my boundary, got out from behind my desk, and invited them to go with me to shop or to have breakfast. I think we just need to lead with kindness and compassion and be welcoming to all kinds of people.
Thank you. Ms. Baum?
I think one of the biggest challenges we have facing the city is our, as we mentioned, our declining population. So we need to attract especially a professional staff, and we can do that by employing diverse practices, those best practices in hiring. But one thing I've learned is living in different communities, I've learned that the more people you have, it doesn't change the character of a city. It only adds to it and amplifies the amazing things that are going on in our city. So it'll be my intention to have representation on our boards, on our commissions, within our city government, so everyone feels welcome within the city of North Adams.
Thank you. We'll move on to the second question, and that question goes to Greta Yoakum from the Berkshire Eagle.
You've both said that improving the public safety building is a priority, so I'm wondering how would you pay for building a new one or doing major renovation to the current building? And do you think it would require a Proposition 2.5 override?
Ms. Maxey, you get to go first.
What was the last part of that?
Would the current building, and do you think it would require a Proposition 2.5 override?
I think at this point, right now, what we need to do is get the $1.2 million released by the governor to do our feasibility study and get an engineering study. I think the first thing we need to do is agree on a site. I also believe that in the public safety building, we need to find temporary housing, temporary space for our police department. The conditions that they're working in are deplorable. And to answer your question about funding, I want to provide a solution that's not going to provide a tax burden on our community. We need to be creative with state and federal funding, as well as maybe we need to ask for some private investment. My goal is not to have a Proposition 2.5 override anytime. But at the same time, we have to be realistic that we need to do something with this building. And I think the first look isn't to automatically default to increasing taxes. We need to pound the pavement, and we need to solicit some solid funding for this program.
Thank you. Ms. Bond?
Thank you. So in my first year, I am absolutely committed to securing that funding, that $1.2 million that we talked about, that capital bond bill that's been set aside for the engineering design. So we have a working committee right now, as I understand in the city. They have identified 3 sites. They are working collaboratively, and they are getting closer to that site. So now we need to work on the design. Now, as Ms. Maxey also mentioned, that there may be a need for a temporary solution. It absolutely is not acceptable how our police and our fire are working in that building, but particularly our police and our dispatch. So we may need to look at a temporary solution while we get to that long-term construction, that long-term solution. Our police and fire are out there in the fields. They've endured this way too long. So again, I just want to reiterate that this public safety facility is the #1 priority project of mine, and I cannot wait to get started on this. These are infrastructure projects that I enjoy working on, and we will get started on this.
Do I get a rebuttal?
Ms. Maxey?
You know, I think Lynette and I agree as far as this being a #1 priority, but it would be super nice if by the time one of us got into City Hall, that money has been appropriated and on its way. That would be a great thing. I don't understand why the administration that we have has taken so long to do this. We've been talking about the public safety building since 2013. And we need a plan, and I agree with Lynette that it has to be a #1 priority. But I would ask the current administration to get moving on that money, but I would also ask them to pause and let the new mayor guide this next phase of the project.
Okay, moving on. The third question this evening is from Josh Landis,
I feel like I'm just
WAMC.
Hey, I'm Josh Landis, WAMC. We've sort of brushed around the topic, but we'll get right to it. What is your assessment of Mayor Tom Bernard's leadership of North Adams over the past 4 years? Where has he succeeded and where has he failed?
Ms. Bond, you have the opportunity to answer first.
I've been quite supportive of Mayor Bernard's administration, particularly related to our public health. I think he has done a phenomenal job in keeping our community safe. I know he has had to make some very, very difficult decisions. Our public health is our #1 asset for all of us. It's been an incredibly difficult year, a trying year for our students, for our teachers, for parents struggling with daycare. We could just go on and on. It's been quite a traumatic year. So for this administration related to public health, again, these decisions have been very difficult. But we know now how to mitigate this virus. And now we know we can be out in public safely, masking with increased ventilation. So all of those practices have been put into place. Our schools are doing testing. I think that the schools have been doing a great job. So there are incredible wins that have come out of this administration, and number one is really to keep our community safe. That's the most important thing. But there are places where I think this administration can do better. I think the issue of housing. We need more affordable housing. I really hope this is a topic. I cannot wait to talk about housing. We need housing, and this is where the administration has not moved forward on. Again, as Ms. Maxey noted, the administration has not moved forward on a public safety facility. We know we have the working group. We know that $1.2 million is close to being available, but that has not been secured. So that is another challenge, and that hasn't been accomplished by this administration. So, and we know that there's incredible blight in this community, and a lot of that has not been addressed. But the staffing has been just incredibly difficult. We know we have a single building instructor, a single health inspector. So as much as I want to see so much more progress, we know there have been also limitations for this administration.
Thank you. Ms. Maxey?
I just want to say on the record, I like Tom Bernard. He and I went to high school together, and I would consider him a friend. I have been disappointed in the last few years, mostly based upon responsiveness to citizens, specifically me. I think, you know, his administration could have been more aggressive with the abandoned properties and addressed the blight and the abandoned cars. I'm still upset about the fire hydrant issue. I don't understand why we had to borrow money when we have a sewer fee, which was put in place to cover infrastructure. Again, like Ms. Bond said, staffing levels in City Hall are very low. No code enforcement officer, no assistant building inspector, no assessor, no full-time auditor. Staffing's been reduced in the city clerk's office and the treasurer's office. And, you know, people wonder why they don't get calls back, because there's hardly anyone there to do their jobs. We're losing talented people, not just for money, but for other reasons. And I'd like to know what happened at Heritage Park. We had a great plan going on over there. I'd like to know why we haven't been able to advance with the bike path. I'm not sure if privatizing the water filtration plan is the right idea, and why do we have brown water? Have we been meeting our drinking standards? There's been little to no improvements in our underground aging structure. I basically had to fight to get my road paved. And what are we doing about the flood control chutes? Those people on the Hoosick River Revitalized team are doing great work, but what's the city's role? And then there comes the Armory. I can't believe an administration would ask a youth organization to pay $18,000 to play there. That Armory was built for the youth of this community, and that upsets me. Sorry for that.
Thank you. Josh, you all set?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, the next question will go to Tammy Daniels from iBerkshire. Okay.
We often celebrate some of the highlights of our schools. We have students doing wonderful things. We have teachers working very hard. But our city schools often score lower on standardized tests. It's lower than the state average. And we have to serve a high proportion of students who live in poverty and have high needs. As the chairman of the school committee, what are your plans to address these academic deficits and raise up economically disadvantaged children?
Ms. Maxey, you go first.
Sure. Well, the first thing is we need to evaluate our curriculum. I believe that we have a robust curriculum in our schools now, but we need to make sure any extra dollar that's out there that gets restored back into our classroom. We need to focus on innovative and exciting programming for our students so we capture their attention. We need to be quicker to evaluate what their weaknesses are and what their strengths are, and work to improve and maybe help them to work to help others improve those areas. I think it's really important that in North Adams, you know, from a mayor's point of view, that I make sure that we get as much funding as we can. The funding formula certainly needs to be looked at, and I will push that Berkshire delegation to get that done. I will push the state and DESE to make sure that if we are lacking in programs, whether it be math, science, reading, that we get funding to help us. And I think it's also important that we focus on class size. And in the North Adams Public Schools, we also should look at the whole total student experience and why are our students lacking in these areas, and quickly work to fix the areas that they're struggling in. But COVID has been very difficult, folks. It's been difficult on all of us. But at the same time, we need to make up a lot of ground. And as the mayor, as the school committee chair, I will work diligently to make sure we can align those dollars to make sure those resources go into the classroom.
Ms. Bond?
The number one thing I think that I could do as mayor and chair of the school committee is to address our school buildings. Our school buildings are dilapidated, and we cannot have high-quality teaching and learning within our current schools. So the first thing I would do was start with the Massachusetts School Building Authority and start with that critical repairs program that we have been invited to participate. So we need to immediately look at that program and start to design, put together the committee, and put a strong proposal forward so that we can receive funding from the Massachusetts School Building Authority. We know that that is the only major funder of schools, so we need to address our school buildings with that funding. I'm quite proud that my children attend North Adams Public Schools. They've had a phenomenal experience. So we know good things are happening in our schools. My son and daughter both attended 3-year-old pre-K and 4-year-old pre-K. It's probably very difficult to find anyone across the country that have had this experience. It's phenomenal what we have. So we need to market and tell our story. We have incredible schools here, and we want all of our North Adams residents to know what is happening in our schools so that they keep their children here in North Adams. We have too many children choicing out of North Adams. So we want to market and tell our story, tell the good things that are happening. We know in our high school, Drury High School was just rated in the top 20% of high schools across the nation for college and career readiness. These are good stories, and we know we have had incredible outcomes come out of the schools. So I will do everything to market our programming. We know we have great after-school programming, and we need to tell our story.
I just want to follow up a little bit, both on the marketing and the idea that, we have a declining population. There is always the potential of local school districts around us closing and North Adams having to possibly take them in. And also, Berkshire Arts and Technology Public Charter School, sorry, is very, very aggressively marketing and is looking to send cards out apparently to students within the North Adams School District. For each of you, how would you market that to compete with these other schools? And do you think the city will have the capacity to take in other school districts if those schools should close? And Ms. Bond, you can go first.
Well, my son, he's a 7th grader at Drury, and he's already receiving a lot of those marketing materials. So I know this is happening, and I know it's aggressive. And even my daughter, as a 5th grader, is already talking with her friends. Are you going to McCann? Are you going to Drury? And this started in 2nd and 3rd grade. So we know that it's out there. Students are actively talking about where they're going to school. But we want our children to be prepared to make the decisions that are the best for them and their families, not based on where their friends are going to school. And regarding other school districts coming into North Adams, we want to be at the table in guiding these conversations. Because of our declining enrollment, we know North Adams is going to have to make very tough decisions about the future of our education. I am ready for those conversations. We have the numbers. We could tell you all the numbers that are happening right now. We have very small class sizes. So it's time for action. We have all seen the report from the Berkshire County Educational Task Force that called for a single district. I don't think we're there, but we do need to talk about and think about the planning for our future, for our children, so that we can tell them and we can provide the services and give them an excellent quality school that they can be proud of. So I'm ready for these conversations. They will be hard, they will be difficult, but we want to provide excellent quality education to our young people.
Thank you. Ms. Maxey, did you want to respond?
Yeah, I mean, I think for keeping students in our district and attracting new students, we need to make sure that the overall student experience is top-notch. Again, going back to robust programming, innovative curriculum, but most importantly, when we have those conversations, I'm not quite sure who asked the question on the other side of the table, but when we have those conversations about bringing new people in, or closing a school or consolidating with another district. We need to have good conversations, and we need to make those students feel no different than our own. We need to collaborate with the schools so the changes go well. I feel that if we have to make these decisions about closing a school or taking in a school, that we should make sure our programs are equal to or better than when we started. And we can't lose ground of that. We have to be improving every single day.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to ask a question that was received from the public and the community. North Adams received $3.8 million in stimulus funds. What process will you use to determine the money, and what process will you use to determine how the money will be spent over time? And what criteria will you use to make those decisions? And further, how will you monitor the spending? And Ms. Bond, you have the opportunity to go first.
So we have the opportunity. This is an incredible opportunity, kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for these extra funds, an approximate total of $3.6 million. So it'll come in different installments. So I think that first installment is that 1.3. So I would like to see that money dedicated primarily to our water and sewer infrastructure, all of that underground infrastructure that we need. But I want this to be a community's decision. This is the community's money. This is the money that has been provided to the city of North Adams. So I want to have an open process, a very deliberative process. I think we can do that in multiple forums. We can do that safely in person. I think others are more comfortable with an online process. So we want to have a hybrid process of bringing people together and making those decisions together. We know this, as government goes, it's a slow, deliberative process, but we want to go through that process. I think it's important to hear all the voices and look at all the funding that's available and what it can be used for. What are we eligible? What are the appropriate uses? So we want to look at all of that and bring as many voices to the table as possible.
Thank you. Ms. Maxey?
Sure, I think I've said a couple of times when I've spoke before that one of my plans in my first 100 days is to create a long-term and short-term capital outlay plan focused on streets, sidewalks, infrastructure, and also our flood control system. I think it's very important as we use this money, we focus on the long-term needs of the community, not salaries, not soft stuff, but things that we have an opportunity to invest in that will help us long-term. And again, those include water and sewer. Those include looking at the flood control chute and working with the Hoosick River revitalization people. But most importantly, I also think that we're able to use some of those funds to help with the broadband access. Those of you who've heard me speak before know that I'm interested in doing a feasibility study to explore broadband, because I think if we explore our broadband network and we can expand it, we will attract more businesses. And that's something that's very important to me to build this economy back.
And I will exercise the right to a follow-up. To the last part, how will you, as the mayor, monitor the spending of the $3.8 million?
Sure.
And Ms. Maxey, you can go first.
Sure. So we will design a plan. We will have a budget, and I will expect whatever department is in charge of that project to provide reports. I will get reports regularly, and I expect to sign off on all of those payments.
Ms. Bond, do you want to respond?
Yes, as the Director of Development for Grants and Research here at the college, I'm very comfortable with federal funding and state funding, and we go through an appropriate process. Right now at the college, we are managing a lot of first it was the CARES and that supplemental, and now the ARPA funding. So there is a process. We have quarterly reports, annual reporting, and I imagine the city follows a lot of that same reporting. So we will follow the guidance that's required through the federal government, and we will provide that in an open place, put that online on the website so that you can monitor and see where that spending is going, because again, it is the community's money.
Thank you. Okay, the next question will be from Miranda Majelski.
As mentioned previously, the population of North Adams continues to be on the decline. Possible causes of this could include a lacking job market and division between newcomers and longtime residents. If elected, how would you aim to welcome new people to the city while also encouraging MCLA graduates and young professionals to stay?
And Ms. Maxey, you can go first.
So as far as welcoming people in the community, it goes back to just being there. It goes back to when you see someone on the street, you say hello and what brings you to North Adams. It is part of engaging with our current businesses and letting them know when things are going on in town. It's about marketing our community so people come in and see us. But when you ask about MCLA students, I love to have my students stay. I still call you my students, I'm sorry. I love to have MCLA students in the community, but we need to make sure there's jobs available. And by doing that, we need to bring businesses in. And we also need to have workforce development training so our employees are able to work here in North Adams. But as far as keeping MCLA students, I'd love to see more of the students stay and be teachers in our schools. I'd like to see some of them join the city ranks. I think we need to tap into the talent on the MCLA campus. I think we have an audience out there that has great potential and that can help us move North Adams to the next level. So I just want to engage with people here at MCLA.
Thank you. And now Ms. Bond.
I think the number one reason that we are not keeping our young people here is because of housing. It really goes back to our housing deficit for that middle to moderate income level. So for those students, recent graduates, I have a woman working for me now, and she wanted to live in North Adams. She went through a number of applications, did not find suitable housing in North Adams. She now lives in Pittsfield. We have a faculty member in the business school who wanted to live in North Adams. He filled out, he said, over 60 applications for housing, did not find anything. He now is commuting from Troy. So we have a desperate need for housing for those entry level, for those students coming out of MCLA, for those nurses, those teachers, those police officers. We need housing, and I want to really dedicate my efforts to thinking about housing in our downtown and in our Mill District. That goes right into the smart growth plan that I am hoping we'll talk more about. But smart growth, I think, is the future. It's the way to keep people here because we have to find housing for our young people. We are working already with Berkshire Mass Hire with the workforce training piece. We are aligning our students to jobs in the area, but that missing piece is housing.
Could I just say something? I agree with Lynette about the housing, but I also think as a community we need to recognize what our existing housing stock is. And we need to work with or even get after those landlords to improve their apartments. We need to have our code enforcement officer so we know that our apartments are safe. So someone who's new to the community can walk into an apartment and know that it's going to have smoke detectors and a carbon monoxide detector and that it's safe. But I also think that while we're growing our housing market and we're creating new development in North Adams, which I certainly want to do, we can't lose sight of our existing properties and let them go by the wayside. So I think it has to be a little bit of a balancing act.
Did you want to offer anything? Or are you all set?
I can respond to housing if you'd like.
It's entirely up to you if you want. You have 1 minute if you do.
All right. So Ms. Maxey talked about housing and addressing blight. I agree. We have to get after property owners. There is way too much blight in this city. We have one building inspector, we have one health inspector, so we don't have the staff to do it, but this is important. So we need to get that code enforcement, that assistant building inspector, whatever that title is, we need to get that position. It will be difficult to fill. That position requires a number of certifications and licenses, so it will be difficult, but we have to get that position. So we want to attract someone to our city. And we know the construction industry is booming. So again, I want to say it will be difficult, but we have to get someone in that department to give our building inspector some time. I know he's not as responsive because he's out for every half hour. So it's important that we hire for that position and we address the blight in our city.
Thank you.
Do I have a 30-minute?
Sure. You have 30 seconds.
30 seconds. So along those lines, though, requires safety, so people feel safe in our community. Everyone deserves to be safe in their homes, on the streets. And we should look to make sure that we have dollars aligned for those types of positions. I agree with you on that, Lynette. But we also need to push harder. We need to push harder. So while we're focused on new development, we can't lose sight. And I understand one person can't push, but we need to fix that. And now we have a rat problem in North Adams. It just can't be let go. We can't be let go. And the strength of this city lies within our neighborhoods and its people, and the existing neighborhoods need to be taken care of as well as new development.
Thank you. Miranda, did you have a follow-up?
Yes. So aside from the creation of new housing or the upkeep of existing housing, if elected, what would both of you do to include, as I said earlier, both MCLA grads, but also just newcomers from all walks of life? And that can be through the form of community events or policy. Just, I would like a little bit more explanation on plans you would like to see for the future.
All right, Ms. Bond, you have 1 minute to respond.
One of the things I think that is important that the college is doing is providing internships. So I would love to provide internships within City Hall, bring students into city government, let them rotate through different departments, let them see what happens in our government, let them be part of the process. I think internships are quite important across our city. So if that's internships in other areas, I really think this is an important linkage to bring students into government and into the city. And the other part, and other ways to bring people that are from outside the community is through events. We have a number of events in our downtown. We have an active business community. We have a chamber that is putting on many events. So often it's just linking and providing people with resources and including them. And a lot of this is through social media, it's through our website. So we need to explore all the communication tools to get that information out to newcomers so that they do feel welcome and
Ms.
part
Bond.
of the process.
Thank you. Ms. Max, you have 1 minute. if you'd
Yeah,
like.
I mean, I think it's important when new people move into town, whether they buy a house or they get an apartment, that there's some kind of welcome from the city. I think it's important when we have projects going on in parts of the community that we actually go into those neighborhoods and talk to the people. I think it's important as mayor that we have meetings and forums just like this regularly, not only during election time. And I think it's important that the mayor be out on the downtown, working with the businesses, working with the college, working with MoCA. But it all comes down to communication. And why we rely a lot on the web and Facebook and everything, nothing beats sitting down and talking to people. And that's what I want to do. I want to talk to people. I want to communicate. I want to hear from all of you. And, you know, we all have different things going on in our lives, but I think if we talk through things and we can collaborate, we can get a lot done here in North Adams.
Thank you. We're going to move on. The next question is from Greta Yocum.
In the wake of George Floyd's murder and racial justice protests last year, there's been a nationwide conversation about policing. I'm wondering if you think there should be any changes to how the North Adams police do their work, and if so, what does that look like?
And Ms. Bond, you have the opportunity to go first.
Thank you. What happened on that day was horrific. It was emotional. It was very difficult to talk to my children about, but this was not an isolated event. We live in a racist society, and we have to address that. We know that many communities are considering racism a public health issue, and it is important that we talk about it in that mindset. Racism is all around us, and we need to confront it. We need to provide forums and change our practices wherever possible so that we can address that ugly truth. But our public safety officers are working in a facility that is not suitable. So we need to support our officers through a new public safety facility. We also need to think about the resources that our officers need out in the field. Often they are responding to issues of mental health and substance abuse disorder. And this is sometimes not what they are trained to do. So we may need specialists in substance abuse or mental health counselors with them when they're out on the field. It's important that we think about all the needs in our community, not just traditional policing, but the real needs of our community, the substance abuse, the mental health, because we're seeing it not only in the police, but we're seeing it in our schools. We're seeing families affected. We're seeing grandparents raising children. We're seeing it across our community, and we need to address that root cause of issues facing our city. And I think it really boils down to substance abuse disorder and mental health.
Thank you. Ms. Maxey?
You know, I agree with Lynette in the sense that our police departments are dealing with some heavy, heavy issues. The substance abuse, the abuse on children. And we also need to make sure that they're prepared to deal with these things. We need to make sure that our officers are adequately trained. We need to make sure that we provide social emotional support for those officers, even our firemen. But at the end of the day, we need to create a culture as mayor that even in someone's worst time, we're there to help them. Even when a person is not responsible for what they're doing and they have no idea, the police officers, firemen, even us, Lynette, we're there to help. And that requires a lot of resources. And those are things that we need to ensure North Adams has. And I think as far as, racism, it's real. It's real, and we need to educate ourselves, and we need to not stand behind our white picket fence and think it doesn't happen here in North Adams, because it does. And we need to be prepared to address it. But it all boils down to just being kind, being compassionate to those in need, and most importantly, trying to help each other get through those difficult situations. But I feel strongly our police department does a great job in the field. I think we need more boots on the ground. But I also think we have to remember that we need to support those policemen and firemen and even the building inspector and the code enforcement officer, because they see some terrible things out there.
Thank you.
I did have one follow-up question.
Certainly.
Substance use disorder came up, and I'm just wondering, what do you see as the city's role in addressing that public health
What did
issue?
you say?
I'm sorry, could you speak a little more? Yeah, there you go.
Substance use disorder came up in that conversation, and I'm just wondering what you think the city's role is in addressing that public health issue.
Okay, Ms. Maxey, you can go first
Sure.
on that.
I think, it's something we can't put our head in the sand about, and we need to work with the district attorney. It's not all about enforcement. It has to be about rehabilitation. I think we need to have more programs in our neighborhoods rather than in specific areas with the Breen Center. I think substance abuse is something that needs to be handled and addressed head-on. I think you've all seen my literature, and I say I'll have a no-tolerance policy for drugs. And I know I can't stop it completely, but I'm going to work very hard to slow it down. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to try to convince our DA that, we can't be letting people off for $40 bail, and so they're back on the streets dealing again. And we're not going to tolerate people dealing drugs on our playgrounds or to our students. And at the end of the day, it's going to require more work for the police department, but I'm going to support those efforts. And I feel strongly if we start squishing the little fish in this community, the big fish won't be preying on them. And it's very basic. It's very basic. Take your drugs and go somewhere else.
Thank you, Ms. Maxey. Ms. Bond?
Well, we cannot arrest our way out of this problem. More police officers are not going to solve the issue of substance abuse in our community. We do have programs that are working. I visited the Keenan House North here in North Adams, where they have 16 residents who are active in their recovery and also dealing with mental illness. These are programs that we need to have in North Adams. We know this center in particular has a waiting list of 33 and it's growing. So there is a need for housing that provides recovery and is safe for people. And when I talk to these residents, their number one concern is, what do I do next? What happens when I leave? What step-down services are available? Because I don't want to relapse. I don't want to let my family down. I don't want to let my community down. People are actively trying to help themselves, and we need to provide the resources to do that. As mayor, I plan to work with the Breen Center, with Berkshire Health Systems, with all of those experts in the field who are addressing this problem head-on.
Thank you,
Can I
Ms.
go to
Bond.
Mayoral?
Ms. Maxey, 30 seconds.
I don't think the solution to the drug problem is arresting everyone. I think the solution is for those who need help, get them into the system and provide some resources. And then when they get out, we have those programs. And for those who don't need to be incarcerated, those are great programs. And I will advocate for those programs. But sometimes some people, they need to be pulled in just a little bit to get the help they need. And that's all I'm saying. I don't want to arrest everybody.
All right, and moving on to Josh Landis.
Hello. The current term of the North Adams City Council has seen a historically high number of resignations, frequent public controversy, and acrimony among its members and their supporters. As a mayor, how would you work to stabilize the city's political climate?
And that question starts with Ms. Maxey.
Great. So the city council is the legislative branch and the mayor is the executive branch. And we must work together to make sure there's checks and balances and order in government. I want to work with the city council and I know that I can. I will work with them. I will keep them fully informed and involved. We may not always agree, but I won't keep score, nor will I hope that they will. I will encourage respectful debate, but I will ask for it to be professional. I will also always act in the best interest of the community, and I know the city council will as well. We don't have to be best friends, but we have to be leaders moving this city forward. I look forward to working with many members of the city, old and new city councilors, to take it to the next level. We can't do it just one person. We can't do it just one body. We will have no boundaries if we talk, collaborate, and that's what North Adams needs to get things done. You know, when people talk about toxicity in the city council, I think it's really embarrassing. I don't see it completely. I think it's just a bunch of people with different ideas, some vocal, some not. But I want to work to bring us together. I want us to be kind. I want us to be goal-oriented. I'll be the mayor that takes charge and brings us together when we disagree. I'll be the mayor that probably prompts some debates. But I don't want to add to any adversity. I don't want adversity in my administration. So I want to be a leader that creates the vision for the city, and I want to work with the city council to do that.
And Ms. Bond.
Whenever we have a group of concerned citizens, emotions can run high. We know that. And the best approach, I think, is to remember that those who serve in public office, it's difficult. I know just running for this office is difficult. And emotions can run high. But we are here at the table because we believe that we are the best people for the job. And for those who are serving in our government, who are on boards and commissions in our city council, they are doing it with their best intention. So we need to remember that people, I believe, are coming to the table with their best intention in mind. But we know that honest debate is hard, and there's a deliberative process. So we want to provide an open forum to have that debate, to have that communication. And I know as mayor, my door will always be open, and I want to communicate with groups. And I talk about the experiences that I have had as a planning board member, as a member of this community. We went through the Vision 2030 plan. I was actively involved in the community across our neighborhoods and in that process as a planning board member. We went through the Colgrove Park Elementary School project. Again, many community meetings, and I was a part of that, and it went through all the levels of our city government. And finally, our smart growth. This is, again, another great project that went through our city. It's gone through many meetings and public hearings, And it's important that the mayor is part of that. And I know as a citizen and as a planning board member, I've been there. I've been a part of these meetings. And I look forward to working with all of those boards, commissions, and our city council.
Yeah, just as a follow-up to that, we're going to,
Certainly.
I think, get to this. Okay, Cameron? Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
certainly.
We're going to get to this down the line, I'm sure. But when it comes to folks who have donated to your respective campaigns, it sort of speaks to some of the divisions in the city council. Certainly, candidate Maxey has been supported by Marie Harpin, Robert Moulton. There's been donations to the bond campaign from Councilor Benjamin Lamb. So is there a sense on your parts as candidates that some of the divisions we've seen over the last 2 years on the council are reflected in this campaign?
Ms. Bond, you can go first. You have 1 minute.
I feel very fortunate to have different members of the community supporting me, and I thank them for the support. I know many are still getting to know me, so I hope people will take the time to get to know me, to get to know my candidacy, my experience, my background, the goals and vision for the city. So there are council candidates that I know that are supportive of me. I know some that have not gotten to know me, but I have reached out to all of our city and council members, and I've reached out to many board members across the city because I want to know that I want to hear you regardless of what side, what camp you're on. I want to hear from you because together we have to build this city, and it'll take all of us, every single one of us, to think about the future, to create that vision, and to move forward for the future of North Adams.
Thank you. Ms. Maxey?
Yeah, and Josh, I'm very proud of my supporters. I'm very proud of the people who've donated to my campaign. Even the little elderly woman who sent me $10, to me that means the world. And as far as who on the city council gives to me and who doesn't, it's okay. That's what having a campaign is all about. That makes the excitement to have supporters on one side of the house and the other. But at the end of the day, on January 1st or November 3rd, however you want to work your schedule, I'm going to go out and I'm going to work with those people. I look out in the audience tonight and I see some people that I really like that are supporting Lynette, and I'm sure you see some people on my side that you probably like too. At the end of the day, we need to come together as a community. And I'm not keeping track of what counselor gives to who. I'm keeping track of who I'm going to work with on January 1st.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is going to go to Tammy Daniels at Berkshire. Some days I'm sure it feels like Tammy Berkshire.
Just don't call me Heather. Massachusetts Museum of Contemporary Art is a frequent target for some residents who feel it has not lived up to its promise to revitalize the downtown. Do you agree or disagree? And what do you think the city's relationship with the museum should be? Do you think payment in lieu of taxes is a possibility or some other in-kind donation?
Ms. Bond, you can go first.
When I think about MoCA, it brings a smile to my face. It's where my kids have had wonderful experiences going into the schools. I've been so fortunate to go to Solid Sound and Fresh Grass. We have so much that's happened because of MoCA. They have annual visitors that top 300,000 annually. Obviously, COVID may have changed some of those numbers, but MoCA has brought a tremendous amount to our cities. It's kept our restaurants and our hotels and all those surrounding businesses, all the commercial properties that surround MoCA. So MoCA is a huge win, a huge success for our community. So I want to be a partner with MoCA. We have new leadership at MoCA, so I look forward to getting to know the new leader. And I think MoCA can do more to support our community. We know that MoCA pays the sewer and water fees, and they are heavy users of that. So that is a way that they are contributing to the city and contributing to the infrastructure. A pilot agreement, we can certainly look at that. But I want to concentrate on the partnership and what we can do together between MoCA and the city. And I may lose a few votes here, but I even like Big Bling. I mean, it's phenomenal. And that park, I love what they've done to bring people in that pathway from MoCA into our downtown. So I appreciate what they've done. I think it's a fantastic thing for our city, and I want to work together with MoCA to bring more into our city.
Thank you, Ms. Maxey.
Yeah, Mass MoCA does some great things for North Adams. I can't imagine what North Adams would be without Mass MoCA. But at the same time, we need more. We need to figure out a way to get all their visitors down into our downtown. We need to have things in our downtown for those visitors to do. I think a key in that is revitalizing the Mohawk Theater. I also believe in the partnership with Mass MoCA. I don't know if the city's been hands-off and just let them do their own thing or not, but I too want to go over there and talk to them and build some solid plans on how to get the foot traffic into our downtown. And as far as, payment in lieu of taxes, I believe that those Mass MoCA buildings themselves are owned by the city of North Adams. And I think that Mass MoCA does contribute quite a bit to the community, but I'm always open to get much more. And I agree, we need to expand that partnership. But it can't be just the mayor. We need to have Mass MoCA work with our existing businesses, our new businesses, and maybe even work on the Mass MoCA project and MCLA, include them in it as well. But as far as Mass MoCA overall, they've done a lot for this community, especially on the educational side of the house. But we need to engage with the specialists over there and tap into their talent and get the people out from behind the gates and into our downtown.
I'm good. Ms. Bond, 1 minute.
Just thinking about a partnership that I think we can bring between the city and Mass MoCA is to address the parking. I know I saw it firsthand when we had over 6,000 visitors for Fresh Grass into our city. We saw people come into our city and look around and not know where to park. So I think this is where the city and Mass MoCA can work together to address parking that is easy for our visitors to find, and frankly, that the city can charge. We know people are coming from the outside, they don't know where to park, and they want to have a place, a safe place for parking, and they're willing to pay for that. So let's think about, together with Mass MoCA and the city, let's think about our parking and provide safe parking for our visitors and make a little money.
I think Mass MoCA does a great job with the parking. My only thing is on some of the side streets, when everybody parks on the streets, it does get a little dangerous. But again, more wayfinding signs. I think they do a great job with signage. But we need to be more aware so when people are coming into the city, they can find these parking lots. Included are those people who are selling spots of their own land. So we need to maybe do some better geofencing around parking.
Thank you. Well, it's my turn again, and this time I'm going to change it up a little. I'm going to give each one of you the opportunity to ask the other candidate a question, something you'd like to hear about, and the candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to the question. And Ms. Maxey, you get to go first. And as you can tell, the candidates did not have access to the questions before the
Okay. So, Lynette, you were very involved in the 40R process through the planning board. And I support anything that is going to create development and advancement and enhance North Adams. But there's one particular thing that bothers me, and maybe you can help me with this tonight, is I'm hung up on the application. I'm hung up on the part where the Commissioner of Public Services in the application certifies that the infrastructure of that area can support development. And I'm hung up on that because the application goes in like around February 10th, and then a few days later or a few days before, everyone's in City Council talking about the fire hydrant issue and talking about the aging infrastructure and talking about how we need to make so many improvements in the infrastructure. And I'm just confused a little bit as to how on one hand we can say it fits the need and that it can have development, and then on the other hand we're saying, oh my God, we've got this major problem with fire hydrants and our aging pipes, and it's been out there for a long time, but that's okay. Let's develop this area. So could you educate me a little bit on why the two different sides there? Or maybe you didn't pick up on that. But that's something that has been bugging me. Not 40R itself, the infrastructure needs and demands that a 40R project is going to put on our system.
So as a planning board member and participant in all the public hearings and public forums that we had regarding this process, so 40R, or Smart Growth Development, is a chance, it's a tool to work with developers to bring in new housing that, again, is desperately needed. We are short nearly 500 units of housing for that middle to moderate income. So we're talking about that sweet spot between $40,000 and $70,000 for those households. Those between a single person, around 40,000, up to 4 people in a household, up to 70,000. So that is what qualifies for this workforce housing. And a developer will need to put in at least 20% of those units for workforce housing. The other 80% market rate. But it is up to the developer to put in the infrastructure to make sure, just like any other construction project, that they have the facility and they have the resources to put in that type of project. Now the city receives, for developing this proposal, for developing this 40R, or Smart Growth, they receive $600,000 and $3,000 for each unit that is completed. So with those funds, the city is able to dedicate resources towards that infrastructure. So if there's water and sewer upgrades that need to happen, if there's sidewalk that needs to be done, the city has those funds to work with that developer and put those projects in.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did you-
thank you
oh.
for that explanation. I just think the cart was a little bit before the horse there on infrastructure. I understand we'll get money back, but the timing of it and the way you have to do a project with infrastructure and the roads, it kind of makes me nervous. So we need to really work and plan on making sure that just because we're advancing one section of the city, it's not causing a water pressure problem or another water break on the other side. That's all.
Okay, thank you. And turnabout's fair play. Ms. Bond, your turn to ask Ms. Maxey a question.
Thank you. So the one thing that people continue to ask me, and again, I wasn't here back in 2008, 2007, 2008, is about your role as treasurer-collector. This has come up many times. I know there have been letters, so I've had to educate myself about this process. But I think the voters and the people really need to understand what happened in our city government. As Ron Boucher said, we've inherited a mess. So something happened while you were working in City Hall. And I think it's fair to the voters to ask the question and to know what your role was in that role and with that medical insurance trust, and knowing that the city was underfunding those payments and that having that available to our teachers and our police and our fire, those unions.
Lynette, thank you for asking that question because I've been dying to answer it, so thank you. So let's just get some history here. I left the city in 2008, and during the election that followed my departure, this was a very hot topic. But no one ever asked me a question about it. Nobody ever asked me a question about it until I decided to run for mayor, and I still didn't get a question about it until tonight. People just thought they had all the facts. So I was the treasurer tax collector, but as treasurer collector, I do not have the ability, or did not have the ability, to appropriate money. So if anyone who claims I misappropriated funds, you're just wrong. Every bill for health insurance was paid during my time, and no one ever had their health insurance canceled. Many times I advocated for rates and benefits for all employees. So for anyone to think that I did not work in the best interest of the employees, you're just a fool. In fact, twice a year, it was known at City Hall that it was my time in the barrel, and John Barrett and I would fight over the funding of this trust. Anyone who worked with me knew that it was a contentious time, and what it boiled down to is pay now or pay later, but we always paid. So here are some few facts that I've discovered during my journey on the campaign trail, because I wasn't there and no one ever asked me, so here we go. So first of all rates for the health insurance were determined by the insurance company and a consultant that was hired out of Boston. They were presented to the mayor and then reviewed with the Insurance Advisory Committee that consisted of union reps. I didn't set the working rates. I just delivered the message. Every bill and claim was paid during my tenure. Every audit for the end of the year was clean. An arbitrator, whose name I believe is Michael Boyle, was retained at the request of the unions and the employees, and it was said that the employees were not overcharged. The final audit that everyone talks about wasn't actually an audit done
Ms.
by
Maxey,
Scanlon. No, I'm going to
It's
finish.
patient. No, Ms. Maxey, I have to say thank you.
Okay.
If you, it's only fair. I stopped Ms. Bond. I
Okay,
know.
just one more statement.
It's tough. I know. It's hard. It's hard.
Give me your 30 seconds, Linda.
Would you like 30 seconds?
I would.
Because I will give Ms. Bond 30 seconds.
Yes, that's
To
fair.
continue.
But
You
the
may.
most
You have 30
impor-
seconds.
The most important thing at the end of this claim question of who paid what is, in the end, when all claims were paid for this time in question, the city received $733,000 that came in from the stop-loss program, and it was closed out. So to say that I mismanaged funds or misappropriated funds or I screwed the employees is absolutely incorrect. I worked very hard for those employees of the city of North Adams, and those people who wrote letters, which I don't blame Lynette for, are completely wrong, and I wish they had the courage to ask me the questions rather than stand cowardly behind their keyboard.
Thank you, Ms. Maxey. Ms. Bond, I will allow you 30 seconds if you have anything.
Well, sure, I would like to move, if I have 30 seconds, in another topic, or?
No, we're going to stick with the topic at hand. You asked the question.
Well, I do think it's important that to bring this issue to light, because that is the thing that people keep coming to me and talking about. And I know after you left, the city had to pay out over $1 million. So this was a huge sore point for the city. And I don't think anyone wants to see something like this continue, something like this happen again. So it's important that we understand your role, we understand what happened, because the city lost a lot of money. That was a big, big mistake.
But
And
what
thank
people
you.
forget is the 733 came back in. That's all I'm saying.
All right, so thank you very much. I think we kind of tackled
Good
the
question, Linda.
500-pound gorilla in the room. So moving
gained some
on
weight.
to the next question goes to Miranda Majowski.
So we have talked a little bit about the topic that I'm bringing up tonight, but I would just like to have more of your insights. So as we know, North Adams has a limited low-income housing market for families and college students. How do you intend to address the lack of socioeconomic diversity in housing?
And Ms. Bond, you can go first.
Well, there's a few programs related to housing. So first is a smart growth. So let me talk about that very quickly, and then I'll talk about another program. So smart growth is one of those forward-looking programs that provides safe, quality housing for households of all sizes, incomes, and ages. This plan encourages development in our downtown and in our Mill District. It's consistent with our Vision 2030 plan, and it preserves the historical nature of our neighborhoods. So we know through the housing study done by Berkshire Regional Planning that our city faces a deficit of housing of nearly 500 units. So we need to address housing needs. I don't want to repeat everything here that I've already talked about. But smart growth is what we need to bring into the city. The second program that I think is really important to bring to our city is our Community Development Block Grant Program. I was fortunate to work in the town of Adams and work on the housing rehab program. So this is a program for income-eligible households to do small capital repairs on their homes. And this allows people to stay in their homes, put on a roof, put on new siding, replace a porch. These are things that we can do for people who want to stay in their homes, for our seniors and for our families. So there are two different programs that I would really like to see the city adopt. One is the smart growth, and second is our CDBG housing rehab program.
Thank you, Ms. Maxey.
Well, Lynette, it's funny because we always agree, but we end up disagreeing towards the end. So yes, smart growth is great, but again, I question the infrastructure demands. And I think maybe if I spend more time with the Commissioner of Public Services, I may get that. But I still worry about that, just so you know. The home improvement rehab program is excellent, but the one thing that I would also add to that is reinstating the own your own home program. This was a program where the city rehabbed houses that we either took through foreclosure or houses that were turned over to us or were abandoned. And we basically flipped them. We rehabbed them, we flipped them, and then we sold them to people with certain income levels so we could reinvest in our households, in our neighborhoods. And these people probably may never have been able to get loans through a bank or even have the opportunity to own homes. So this is an important program. So while we're working on bringing in new housing, I think it's very important that we preserve what we have and we work on the blight in our neighborhoods. And some of that is through the rehab program. I agree with you on that. But I also believe in the Own Your Own Home program as well.
Thank you. And we're already at 8:15, so we are going to move along. Greta, you have the next question?
Okay. Do you think city government needs to be more transparent? And if so, how would you increase the transparency?
Government transparency.
Sure. I always think anyone can be more transparent. I think we need to be sure that all of our minutes and meeting notes are put up on the website in a timely manner. I think our website needs to be a little more robust in what's going on in North Adams and, you know, more materials that are connected to the agenda. I also think that we as leaders need to be more transparent in the sense that we're available. I think it comes down to just getting the word out and talking. And it includes working with the city council too. You know, just don't go to the council floor and drop a bomb on the city council a week before you want something approved. Let's vet it, let's talk about it, let's get community input. I think you're hearing from both Lynette and I that we both want to be transparent. We both want to talk to people and get the buy-in of the community. But it starts with us. It starts with one of us. And it starts with the city council. And it starts with the staff at City Hall. And it just focuses on informing our citizens of what's going on and seeking input. So transparency can be taken a lot of ways, good, bad, or indifferent. But I think being transparent is a good thing for us here in North Adams.
Thank you. Ms. Bond?
Transparency, of course, is part of any government process. So we want to make sure that we have an online process for many of our processes. I would like to see online permitting that is available through our website. I would like to see a tracking system of identifying infrastructure needs. Pittsfield has done an excellent job with their PitSmart program. It's something that our website does support, and it's something we could think about. So there are online solutions to issues that we have in the community. So bringing to light, putting those services online, I think will help in the transparency. We also know that we have staffing with our City Hall, so we need to make sure that our staff are trained and that they have the resources they need to get the meeting minutes online, to do what they need to do. But also being transparent is being open and having meetings that are accessible. So I think part of that, if in any way possible, I want to see hybrid meetings. I want to see a combination between online and in-person meetings, because that creates an opportunity for all individuals, regardless of their status, to be able to participate in our city government, because we want to bring more voices to the table and be part of the solutions and be part of the vision and excitement and everything that's happening in the city. So whatever we can, we want to bring people to the table and do that in an open, honest way.
Thank you. Josh, you have the next question?
Society. We've heard tonight about like creating an atmosphere of inclusion or being welcoming or working for everybody. You know, the city has begun some efforts to actually carry out internal efforts around those themes and those topics. Looking at what that subcommittee on the council's done, looking at internal efforts, what are the actual policies and practices that you would want to bring to the table, if you indeed want to bring them to the table, around those topics?
Ms. Bond, you can go first.
So the IDEA committee that you're referencing has been a welcome addition. That's a new committee that was formed under the current administration. So I want to do what I can to support that committee. I think they're doing phenomenal work. And I think having actionable items and having specific items where the committee can address our city policies, can do a complete policy audit to see what things need to be improved within our city, look at different processes. Again, look at our meetings and our online forums and our in-person meetings and making them accessible, because part of being inclusive is making things accessible. So there are specific items. So looking at a policy, doing a policy audit, and also looking at our hiring practices. I think there are specific items that the IDEA Committee can work on and bring to our city government to improve and to make our processes more inclusive and more diverse.
Thank you. Ms. Maxey?
Yeah, I do think that committee is doing great work, and I think the work definitely needs to continue into the next administration. I think it also provides us with awareness of where our strengths and our weaknesses within our policies that we have and as we develop policies. But I think it's very, very important that we develop those and we continue to work with people. But it can't be all the same people. That's what the point of the committee is. And I think we need to have small working groups and then expand out to bigger working groups. But that is definitely something I think that this administration has done well.
Thank you. And the final question this evening will go to Tammy Daniels from my Berkshire.
And I am going to toss it back to you, Myra, because we are getting low on time. So we have a couple of fast lightning rounds. And if you want to hit them with a couple of those and then go to closing, I would be more than happy to do that.
Okay, thank you. So, lightning round. Lightning round are simple yes or no answers. It's going to be tough, but we're going to do this. Yes or no?
Okay, do we like each other? Yes. You can answer.
Okay, and we'll just go back and forth. Do you support mandated vaccines for city employees? Yes or no? Ms. Bond?
I do not.
Ms. Maxey?
No.
Should the Greylock Elementary and Sullivan schools be made into affordable housing? Ms. Maxey, yes or no?
Greylock, you said?
Greylock and Sullivan, yes.
No.
Ms. Bond?
One yes, one no.
That's not the answer.
No, the question is,
Two different
and,
properties.
I know,
I see two different needs for those two different properties.
I gave you an and. Okay. All right. Do you support the creation of enterprise funds for major infrastructure improvements in the city? Ms. Bond?
I do, yes.
Ms. Maxey?
Overall, I do not.
Are you open to roundabouts on Main Street? Ms. Maxey?
Roundabouts, they're my worst enemy. No.
Ms. Bond?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's try this one. Should the city of North Adams have a single tax rate? Ms. Bond?
No.
Ms. Maxey?
No.
Do Black Lives Matter? Ms. Maxey?
Yes.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
And the
That is a
last
yes.
question of the night. Do you support the bike path project, Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Maxey?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Maxey, you have the opportunity to go first with your closing statement.
Great. Thank you, Myra. And thank you to Lynette. I'd like to thank everyone who helped make this debate possible tonight, especially MCLA. This election centers around one central theme, and that is leadership. Which of the two candidates is best prepared to lead this city the next 2 years and beyond? North Adams is a $42 million business, and it needs now more than ever a strong and an experienced leader. Throughout this campaign, I've met many people from all walks of life. I've listened to you, but most importantly, I've heard you. The common theme that you wanted is North Adams to be the best it can be. Parents want a good education for their children and good jobs to support their families. Residents want quality of life that protects our environment, allows seniors to feel safe in their homes, and a government that is responsive and compassionate. And they also want a mayor that will stand up for Spectrum. I feel my experience in government on both sides of the house, on the municipal side and educational side, has prepared me well to be the next mayor. One promise I will make to the citizens is that I will work tirelessly on your behalf, and every decision I make will be in the best interest. I believe in North Adams. That's why I've stayed here my entire life. I believe in you, the residents, and now I ask you to believe in me. Much remains to be done here in North Adams to take us to the next level, but it calls for experienced leadership. I hope that I've proven tonight to you that I am that person. I will be a hands-on mayor, ready, willing, and fully prepared on day one. I will bring professionalism and oversight back to city government. And I want North Adams to have a government which is truly transparent and one in which all citizens are a part of. I hope I've earned your vote. And on Tuesday, November 2nd, you cast a vote for Jennifer Maxey for mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Bond?
Thank you to everyone for being here. Thank you to the members of the media. Thank you to Ms. Maxey. And thank you to those, I hope, are watching from home. I am encouraged about the opportunities and the future for North Adams. All of us here tonight need to be part of and help create the future that we want to see in North Adams. I want to do that by building upon the good things that are happening and the many successes that we are seeing in North Adams. We live in a city that sees over 300,000 annual visitors to Mass MoCA. We have a campus here that is in the top 10 of public liberal arts colleges in the nation. We have Drury High School that is in the top 20% of high schools for college and career readiness. And we are seeing the success of entrepreneurs like those in NORAD Mill, on Eagle Street, on Ashland Street, on Holden Street, and across our city that are opening up businesses and building our local economy. I am committed to our shared future and focusing on improving our infrastructure that starts with our public safety facility and our public school buildings. I will encourage and provide resources in order to create economic stability and housing for our community that is desperately needed for our seniors, for our families, and our working professionals. The earlier days of North Adams were defined by community investment, and we thrive when we come together. I will serve as mayor who honors this and works with all of our residents. So on November 2nd, I ask you for your vote. And if I've earned your vote, please talk to your friends and neighbors. And please know that we still have events coming up. Please check out LynetteBondForMayor.com to see our events coming up this week. Because if I haven't answered your questions and you do have questions, please reach out, attend an event, send me an email. Polls are already open for early voting, and the polls will be open from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. on November 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you. So, to close, I'd like to thank MCLA, Miranda, and the Poli-Sci Committee, and Berkshire for hosting tonight's event. As Lynette stated, early in-person voting is now open at City Hall in North Adams, and November 2nd is the big day, and the polls will be open from 9 in the morning till 7 at night. Tonight, the City of North Adams would be fortunate to have either one of these candidates as their next mayor and the first woman mayor for the City of North Adams. I thank you very much for your participation tonight. I wish you both luck, and now we should cheer and applaud these people.